Alrighty, so real quick, I wanted to take a minute to go over the things that we check when first setting up and installing a Tango Ace or Solo. It helps speed things up for anyone out there doing this, may not be incredibly familiar with it. So doing this, you will end up taking off every panel of the machine at some point. So I have found that it is easiest to just remove all the panels from the start, and I'll show you how to do that here. I've already removed the left side and the right side, but one thing that folks sometimes have trouble finding is how to get this side panel off. And really, once it's loosened up, you're just gonna push it straight back and it'll come right off like that. And on these new ones, there really is only one screw that holds these on right here. Loosen this and it will just push straight back off of this hook and this hook. And there's a couple of pegs right here that are gonna latch it up here and here. Right? And then putting the side on, it's gonna be the same thing, just line all those pins up and slide it forward. On some of the, well, on most of these that are more than probably prior to 2022, I guess I would say, right down here on the underside, there's also going to be a 10mm bolt that, if you look down here, that would tighten up on this tab. That's not the case anymore. So if this is brand new, it's likely you won't have to do anything with that bolt. So both sides there and there are off. We can come to the top, and I do have this all loosened up pretty well too. So you've got these two side fins that, after you remove the 4 screws underneath this grate, they'll just come off here. And then we got this grate, and you can see here's where those 4 screws would have been that I've already taken out. They also, as you see, there's one that goes right here. This front end just hooks under the front there. So take that off. This piece comes off, and this piece comes off. So we've got the top and the sides opened up. We're also going to need to open up down here to do the drain connection. You see this whole thing slides forward. Pull out this grate, and to remove this plate, the drain nut actually unthreads. It might be tight. I've already been doing some work in here. And once you get it here, the trick is pick your side, right or left, slide it over so it gets underneath this lip, and then you can come over to this side and pull it up. All right, so down here, got main power switch. This is our drain block, our cleaning valve. The only thing you should have to do for an install is run this drain hose up through under here and clamp it on right there. And then this can go back in. And we're good to go with the drain. Last panel that needs to come off is going to be the rear panel. So the rear panel, if you look, we've got one screw here and one screw here on front and back sides. You have to remove the side panel to access those, but with these, just loosen them up. They don't need to come out, and then this whole back panel should just slide one way or another and come right off. So what we're checking around here on the back, you're going to need to measure whatever your voltage is coming off the wall. Here's a multi-transformer tap here with a sticker right here. You can see you're either going to set this for 200, 230, or 240. Whatever is closest to when you measure your incoming voltage. There's a lot of wires here, but if you look on the sticker right here, move the gray wire, right? And that's going to be this gray wire all the way over here. if we read right here, this is also a map of the terminals. So where I am right now, we've got a solid 240. So we're going to be all the way to the far right terminal right here on the 240. If it were 230, we would pull this gray wire off of the spade, move it over to here, or right here for 200. I'm going to clarify that. This one's set up a little differently. So currently we are in the 230 slot. 240 would be right here. So 240, 230, 208. This blue wire is always going to be neutral. Don't move your gray to the blue. Right. With the back done, we can come around, finish up our hookups. So if you come to the right side, got your pump here. This big hole right on the bottom is where you're going to route your water hose to. The fitting with the 90 is the one that hooks up here. And you're going to look right here for this big block that houses the water safety switch. This will be an open terminal. So put this right on. The machine should have come with either a 3/8 fiber or copper crush washer to put in there to help seal that up. Make this fitting, make your connection on the other end at the wall, and your water is good to go. Two more adjustments we make over here. If you look back here, this is your cold water blending valve. This silver screw right here is the one that adjusts. As with the filling valve here that I'll show you in a minute, this brass screw is only a stopper, so you don't back that other one all the way out. Right? So we take this one and we just close it clockwise all the way. We don't really have a use for a whole lot of cold water blending in most situations on this machine. So we just close that. And up above, up top here next to your flow meter, this is your fill valve. Now the way that we set this fill valve, you'll want to check it, run it all the way in, run it all the way back out, and give it one full turn in. All that movement will help to break up anything that might have crystallized, sitting on the shelf or in shipping, anything from the water when it was bench tested at the factory. And then that one full turn in from all the way out is an almost fully open setting that we use that keeps this working pretty well. If you get to the point where you take care of that, that's all your hookups, that's everything else. You can turn it on and come back around to the front. And this is where we're going to check and potentially update our software. Okay, so the machine should have come with a USB key in a plastic accessory bag. You want to take this out, or if we've dispatched you and sent you a link to a more current version of this software, download it, make that USB, and use that in place of the one that ships with the machine. Right? But you're going to have this USB port right here, just below your hopper. You will see this through the metal plate. If the metal plate is still on, there's a cutout for it. But we're just going to put this USB in and come here to the screen. We'll get a pop-up menu here in just a second, right here. So if we look, upgrade CPU, it's going to show us two numbers. The first number is what is on the machine. So we have currently loaded 91.04.02, and there's a double arrow there. That is what this software will change to if you upgrade from USB. So in this case, we don't need to adjust anything. We've got the same version on the USB that's on the machine. But to show you how we do this, always do the display first. So we're going to hit upgrade display, confirm, and run through this procedure here. It's going to say select file. There's only one to choose from. There we go. And then we will restart the machine. bear with another moment while this finishes booting up. All right, there we go. And you will notice now, if you go into the menu, we're back into French, which is our default language, right? So I've still got my USB installed. So our upgrade menu came up again. We're just gonna hit red for cancel. And let's get this back into English. We're gonna go to menu. With the USB in, you can just hit OK. If the USB is not in, you can use 9191 as a technician code to get in. And then to get this language set up for proper English, go to parameters and flag for language. And we don't have American English, we've only got British English, but it reads just the same. Accents are optional. And we're back to proper English. Couple of settings while we're in the menu to run through here. I always like to run through and check. I run through the main computer sim settings. So we'll go to setup, sim, and run through what we have on this menu. So what I'm working on right now is going to be a two-step ACE. So it doesn't have a side fridge. It doesn't auto froth milk. We do have this frothing steam wand, but it's not like this one back here. You can see we've got a fridge on the side and the little hose. It's not that type of unit. So, machine type. This is a solo, right? We've only got one group here. The duo would have one on either side of the drawer here. So solo is as it should be. Machine model. We're using an ACE, so we're going to change this one to ACE. Always hit that green check mark when you make a change here. Grinders are purple and green, just right and left. You're never going to see orange. We don't have any 3-grinder purple, orange, green machines in the US, so this should always be grayed out for you. Milk system, like I said, this is a 2-step, so we're going to have none. If this did have the big white frother that would be hanging out right here, you would go with the LC Venturi, but we don't need to make a change in this case. Then scroll down to the next. Self mode, you'll want to turn on if this is going to be like in a break room where anybody can walk up and make a drink. There's no like manned staff, no barista, anything like that. That helps to keep people who maybe find this video or a resource on YouTube and think they know how to play with the settings that really shouldn't be in there. This helps to lock them out. So we're off. We're not, right? We're going to be installing this into a cafe with a counter and a staff, so it will not be in self mode. Water reservoir, also off in this case. That's going to be, if you're using a flow jet or some type of external pump. Hot water is referring to the hot water wand here. We can go by time or by volume. I like to set it by volume and tell it, how many milliliters to pump out over how many seconds. Steam, right here. This big auto frothing wand. This is a temperature probe, right? Hangs out right here. This is steam air. That's what we're gonna want. If you've got, back to this machine again, a traditional steel wand or a Teflon wand, you're going to want to put it on to manual. And in the case that you do not have any wand at all, go ahead and hit none. Go down again. So here we've got Deca. Deca is an option that isn't in the US. There would be right here, right in this area, a box with a hinged lid that pops open for putting in like spoonfuls of decaf. For someone who wanted decaf, that would leave this for be like a single origin hopper and a house hopper instead of regular and decaf. We don't really utilize that. No one's asked for it. It's nothing you're going to run into probably, so we just leave that one off. And in the same off. Same with vein here, show Deca icon is going to be off. We don't need to show that icon because the feature's not installed. CPR test the power on, it will be off. And machine serial number, right? You can insert the serial number here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? That's going to be just your default number. So after we change all these settings, right here, press for 3 seconds to save values. This is again going to want us to restart the machine. So feel free to skip forward here for a second while this is rebooting again. Alright, and we're back up. Your menu will probably not look like this one. This is a custom menu for client, but yeah, single, double, triple espressos, and 3 sizes Americanos. That's all they want. Same thing for decaf. So this can be programmed however you want to program it. Just depends on how much playing around in the settings you want to do. So back to these other settings I check really quick. We'll go to menu. My USB is in, so we'll just hit OK this time. We go to setup and date and time. Right here, you can set the date and time. I've already done this. You'll see here, it gives you the 6th of September, 2022. We're in 24-hour military time. And that's how it shows us up here as well. This can be confusing because it's in European date format, but that's the 6th of September, 2022. Don't let that throw you off. Another thing I look into is temperatures. My steam boiler pressure, they usually set that to 1.1 bar. Group temperature is something you can adjust if you feel the need to. I usually drop this down to about 95 Celsius. 98 seems a bit hot, but if you're running a really light espresso, something like that, it might be good to take that temperature up a little bit. No save button for that setting. Go back in. And then go into products and steam and hot water. And this is where you can set your time. So steam time, small s, that's going to be for the lower of the 2 steam buttons. That would be right here. And steam air temperature is where we set this auto frother to shut off at. 65 is pretty high. I usually drop this down to about 58 and little trial and error from there. This steam air wand works much better with a large pitcher. If you try using like an 8 or 12 ounce pitcher with this thing, there's a good chance it's going to over foam, over froth, but it likes a good volume of milk to really work its best. But we're going to leave this at 58 for now. And then these are milliliters, cc's for your water volumes, so 50 and 100. So if we come home, this would be 50 and 100 ml. This is set to 5 seconds, so that could just be a good little purge. And up here, this one runs fully by temperature, so it will run until we get to that set point of 58 degrees Celsius. That is pretty much the bulk of what you're going to need to look into here. Some things that you might come into, I've got this top popped open for. Around this diamond-shaped plate here, this is your heat exchange. This is all your coffee water, your brew water, your Americano water. That has Teflon ring seals. So it is not uncommon when you first start this thing up to see water and steam kind of leaking around the sides there while this comes up to temperature. As that metal expands, the seals will end up sealing, and those leaks should stop. If you start this up and you go to pull a shot and you get no water at all out of your spout here, chances are there's a clog in the jet in your brew valve. There is a vertically mounted jet, and if we follow this pipe back here behind the boiler where it drops down, that fitting, I'm gonna grab a screwdriver so I don't burn myself, right here. If you remove this fitting, you can bend this pipe a little to the side out of the way. there's going to be a metal mesh screen right below it, along with a crush washer. If you've got a good magnet, you can get that metal mesh screen out, hopefully without losing it somewhere down there where it will never be seen again. And then you'll be looking right at the top of the jet. It's a 0.7 millimeter jet. So if you've got a set of welding tip cleaners that are sized the right width, or maybe a high E guitar string, I think will work. You can just take it and run it straight down through the jet a couple times like that. Seal this thing all back up and you should get your water flow again. This will be your LP valve. High and level water probes. Americano valve. This is where all the bypass water for filling up the Americanos comes from. Heating element. And your turntable, right? So you got your two grinder chutes. This dances around and does what it does. I think that is pretty much about 90% of what you're going to need to do for an install and setup of one of these Tangos. You're also going to want to do a grinder calibration. That I'm going to do in a separate video. Not that complicated, but good to have on its own. And the one last thing that you're going to want to check, make sure your USB is in so we can get our tech readings, and come down here to your screen and hit menu and info. You're going to get a bunch of stuff right here. Now if you look up in this top right corner, there's a picture of a turntable, and we're interested in those TT numbers. For a new machine, you want that to be somewhere between like 150 and 190. If it's way off, we're going to need to adjust the bearing on the turntable, and that will also be covered in a different video under preventative maintenance, because that's generally about the only time you're going to do that. 6-month maintenance on this. You're going to check that bearing and do a grinder calibration and just kind of give it a once over, and that's the every 6 month. So I hope this helps, and feel free to reach out if you need any more help with anything Tango.